Hello, everyone, and welcome to Puerto Rico Energy in 60 Seconds for the week beginning February 27th, 2022. So things are getting interesting in their restructuring of PREPA's debt. The FOMB, the junta, had a hearing on Friday, and many people presented asking for the agreement to be renegotiated, pushback, etc. I'm disappointed. A lot of the arguments were yammering on about solar tax and talking about vulture funds. God knows what that's about. These are caring people, and they're really dedicated to getting a better deal for Puerto Rico. The trouble is those aren't particularly good arguments. The basic argument, and really the only one that counts, is that the structure of the agreement and the amount that they show to cut would leave the amount of debt to be repaid, again, not counting other forms of debt like pensions and other creditors, which haven't been involved in this, a huge amount potentially to drive up the cost of power, halt and stagnate investment beyond the recovery funds into the infrastructure, and generally slow things down. Things like the solar tax and others, as they're named, aren't really a solar tax, but they do have a disproportionate income on the disproportionate effect on the potential for the solar industry to grow in Puerto Rico. And this is definitely not something that is wise. The policies themselves and the restructuring are just stupid. I've made the economic argument, as have others competently. I'd say Tomas Torres Placa and some of the groups out of ICSE and certainly Sergio Marxwatch and the folks at CNE have all lent their analysis and experience to suggest that something different must be done. Now, what's actually happened is that the House and Tito Hernandez from the PPD has said, look, we're not going to pass legislation to enforce this stuff. Pierre Luisi, the governor, has said that he thinks it should be renegotiated, and he's on board. So forces in Puerto Rico are coming together, as I imagined they would, to insist that the deal gets restructured significantly, cut out the stupid policy that it would enforce upon Puerto Rico, and do something that will allow Puerto Rico to invest in its infrastructure and lower the cost to its customers and the population. Now, we could go on, but what the board, the FOMB, the junta, has said is that they intend to go forward and get the already negotiated deal approved by Judge Swain and put it forward without legislation in Puerto Rico. Well, good frickin' luck. They can do that, I believe, but good luck enforcing anything without the legislation passing the appropriate laws. The people in Puerto Rico can just sit down and not pay. They can ignore it. And there's very little that the junta or anybody else can actually do to enforce it. So I think that the current deal is really dead in the water if they want to be honest with themselves. And I think there are many things that can be done to improve it. I did at one point have an opportunity to talk with Natalie Haresco about 2 or 3 really odd policies, including what's come to be called the solar tax, and suggested strongly that something a lot more intelligent could be done. She acknowledged the shortcomings, but to be honest, she said, look, and she's right about this, that the type of debt that we're talking about here in terms of PREPA, a class of revenue bonds, is different than what was renegotiated for the government of Puerto Rico. It limits, to some extent, the ability of the board to propose and enforce solutions within the context of a renegotiated deal. So it's a little bit tougher, but I think a firm stance and the people of Puerto Rico and the government trying to restructure and understand what it takes to be able to deliver something in terms of a good service and at a reasonable cost, all things considered, to the people of Puerto Rico is absolutely essential. for the revitalization and the economic development of Puerto Rico as a whole. That's really the key point, and it's the only thing that ultimately matters. In the process, you can clean up some of these ridiculous policies like the solar tax. Oh, I could go on, but this is Tom King, and this is Puerto Rico Energy in a whole lot more than 60 seconds this week. Hope you enjoy.